He's the home voiceover studio engineer to the stars in Los Angeles, California. A Virginia Tech grad whose knowledge of the latest recording gear is second to none. He's a voice actor and the home studio master, hailing from Buffalo, New York. His home studio skills and knowledge of voiceover recording is unmatched. When Dan and George talk shop, people listen, and the talk continues tonight. Welcome to East West Audio Body Shop. And now, live from his high-tech facility in Santa Monica and his penthouse studio in Buffalo, here are George Whittam and Dan Leonard.
Good evening. I'm Dan Leonard in the East.
And I'm George Whittam in the West.
And together we are East West Audio Body Shop. We're back. All right.
We're back.
Everybody glad to see us? We're glad to see you. We're glad to see you guys every week. Even when we're not here, you guys show up. It's amazing. Again, sorry about last week. I was in Puerto Rico, sweltering my tojas off, and George had been traveling about the East Coast, and we just couldn't get it together last week.
Well, so. and our faithful producer has had her hands full with her ailing mother, so that's really been the biggest troubles. Without our producer, we're scrambling, man.
That's right.
She really does a lot to keep the show moving forward and keep the guests flowing. So we got John Melly.
We have John Melly tonight.
That was awesome.
Joining us in about half an hour, and we're going to talk about some alternative ways of marketing your voiceover business. And but I got to share this one picture though.
Yeah,
I'm going to share my screen here for a second.
Okay.
And show you this picture. If you can see this, can you see that now?
Not yet.
Okay, well, it should be coming up.
Yeah, you click the share screen button.
Share screen.
Okay.
Oh, here we go. There we go.
Now I see a screen. Daniel Leonard has started screen sharing, and it went full screen and took over my entire computer.
Okay, but I'll take it.
There we go. I fixed it. It's fine.
Okay. All right. So you see this picture here.
Yeah.
What is wrong with this picture? Now we went to we went to Cabezas de San Juan, if you've ever been there. It's a bioluminescent bay. But it's amazing the activities. You are not allowed to camp. You are not allowed to have a campfire. You can't bring your dog. You can't take a shower there, which I can't quite follow. There are no men and women there. I think there's no restrooms.
Right.
No littering. However, you can walk, swim, boat, and you can snowmobile.
Yes. I have always wanted to snowmobile the beaches of Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico. Anyway, I thought that was kind of funny, interesting.
I mean, I have seen a bizarre sport where people will ride a snowmobile on water. But that is definitely not a. And maybe
not a snowmobile.
The sign maker just got the logos mixed up. It should have been a jet ski or a wave runner.
I think it's the standard state park thing.
Maybe that's what it is.
Maybe that's what it is.
Hello, America.
Anyway, so we're back. Anyway, we've got a couple of great technical topics to talk about aside from snowmobiling in San Juan. And George is going to talk about using the right mic. I've got something on normalization, and we've got your questions. And if you've got a question for us or and our guest in the chat room, type them in there. And our faithful chat room monitor, Anthony Gettig, up there in the wilds of northern Michigan, will be
plugging them in.
He will be feeding us the questions, and we will be eating them up, chewing them up, and spitting them out at our guest.
That's right.
So anyway, let's start off now. We're thinking about this one, and microphones are an important part of what we do and how we use them.
Naturally.
And what microphone you use,
right.
Because we have to deal with exterior noise and stuff. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, of course, we've got exterior noise to deal with, and we've got interior noise and equipment noise and all sorts of different layers of noise that we have to deal with. And so it kind of starts with, noise elimination. We've been, people are asking about using denoising filters and noise gates and all of the Band-Aids, that are common in voiceover recording to fix these problems. But if you can, please try to eliminate the noise from the source. So one of the ways you can knock down some of the noise is by using a microphone that rejects more noise. And there are a few out there that we have found that are better than others at this. So microphones that are generally not good at rejecting background noise are of course, omnidirectional microphones. Those are mics that pick up sound in all directions. So they're generally not so good at rejecting background noise because they pick up sounds in all directions and on all sides. So you generally want to avoid those in any studio, pretty much any voiceover studio. Then we've got probably the most common style of microphone for voiceover, and that's a cardioid microphone. And that's your standard, Neumann TLM-103, Shure PG42, AT2020, fill in the blank. There's hundreds of them, and it's by far the most common voiceover mic. And cardioid microphones, they pick up more of what's in front, less of what's in back. They have this sort of heart shape pickup pattern. Now, my microphone I'm using is doing a great job of picking up the airplanes going by. But that's because I live in the take-up path or the takeoff path of Santa Monica Airport, and my windows are open because it's about 83 degrees and the sun is beating on the roof of this section of the house. So we're going to bear with it tonight. Sorry, guys. But microphones that reject more background noise tend to have more directional pickup patterns. So supercardioid, hypercardioid, things like that are what you're generally looking for when you're picking out a microphone. So what are some of the mics that have these pickup characteristics? Well, shotgun microphones are probably the first thing that come to mind. You're probably immediately going to think of the venerable Sennheiser MKH416 shotgun mic. It's about $1,000 mic when they're new, and they do reject a good deal of background noise. But the thing is, it's not a miracle fix. And one reason is because the microphone, while it's really directional, it's going to pick up what's in front of it, but it also picks up a node of what's directly behind it.
Node?
Yeah, there's like a node. Like this, the pickup pattern has a big sort of a cone in front where it picks up mostly what's in front of it. But then there's a little bump in the back where the pickup pattern also has an area of pickup. So it has some sensitivity directly at the rear. So that's one thing. Another thing is these mics also, because they're so sensitive to what they're in front of or what they're pointing to or at, if the noise source is in the line of sight, so to speak, of the mic, of course the microphone's going to hear it. So when you're using these super directional microphones, it's all about how you angle and place the microphone. So the deadest area of the mic is generally towards the side in the back hindquarters of the microphone. So if you're, okay, I'm looking at a shotgun mic here. We're talking about the area from about here back. This is the deadest part of the microphone. So wherever the noisiest source is in your office or studio or whatever should be placed in that area so the microphone rejects the most noise possible. But it doesn't have to be a shotgun mic. This mic I'm using is an AT875R. It's one of the most affordable microphones I can possibly recommend for professional voice acting use. These things run around $150 on Amazon. Cannot beat these things. They're amazing. But they're not the only way to go. And if you don't like the super directional style of a shotgun mic, there's some other choices. Now, Dan's got up on his stand, the one he's actually using tonight, as though I asked him to put it up there, he's using the CAD E100S, and I'm going to switch to a shot of Dan so you guys can see that mic. It looks like a conventional side address, large diaphragm, cardioid condenser microphone, like the kind that most people would buy. But the amazing thing about this mic is not only is it also very low noise itself, like its own electronics are extremely low noise, but it also is extremely directional because it is a supercardioid microphone. So it has got a pickup pattern that more reflects the style of a shotgun mic than your common AT4033, MXL 1006 or whatever you might be using, the VO1A. Those mics are more cardioid. So you might look for mics that are more directional. Now, if your noise issues are really severe, and there's just nothing you can do about it, you just live in a bad area for noise.
Move to the country.
Yeah. You've got a computer tower that you've not figured out a logistical way of moving it out of the room. You've tried a lot of things within reason. Then you can even lean towards and I'm going to recommend 2 mics that may be way outside of the norm. The first being a dynamic microphone, and you could try an SM7B, like the Shure SM7B. It's a broadcast mic, it's end address, and it's a dynamic mic. It's designed for you to work very close. You really have to be like within 4 to 6 inches, maybe even closer, to get in the sweet spot of this mic. But because it's dynamic and because of its pickup pattern, it has a natural tendency to reduce a lot of background noise pickup. So that's one way you can go. But I'm going to go another direction, and I'm going to remember when we had our buddy Wes Dooley on. You remember Wes, that cool tour we took of Wes's studios? AEA microphones?
Yeah.
Do you remember how Wes was showing off that ribbon mic technique that I never even thought about?
Yes.
He ended up taking a ribbon mic and putting it sideways. And the thing that's interesting about ribbon mics is they're extremely sensitive. Okay, let's say it's facing normally, like side to side. They're extremely sensitive at the front, and they're equally sensitive at the back, but they have an incredible amount of rejection at the sides. They pick up almost nothing at the side of the mic. So you might even consider, if you have a studio that has, you have a noisy exterior, but the roof is quiet, like you have a quiet upstairs and you have a quiet downstairs, you can flip one of these mics on their side. And now that this pickup pattern is pointing up and down. So the sensitive side is up and down. Then you can just sort of speak over the mic, or you can have it over you pointing down, but keeping in mind that the deadest possible point on the mic, which is the area sort of around its waistline. Yeah, around the perimeter. Yeah, like that. Now, I'm actually talking about so it's pointing up and down, like that. Oh. That was what he showed us in that little video, right?
Oh, well, and that's the technique you use with the ribbon mic.
Yeah, and you're kind of speaking kind of directly over top of it. And so the deadest area, where it's pointing away from you and around the room, is going to pick up a lot less background noise. So would I buy a ribbon mic before I try soundproofing or trying a different room in your house? Maybe not. But again, it's just an interesting way you can kind of think outside the box. And ribbon mics can be expensive to experiment with. But if you try some from like our buddies at MXL, they make some pretty affordable ones you can play around with. And give it an experiment and see if you can get lower noise. Just the thing is, remember, ribbon mics and dynamic mics need oodles of gain. So they tend to have more background noise, a little bit more, actually not background noise, but a little bit more white noise. So just keep that in mind. So
and an occasional hum. Yeah.
It can have a hum, yeah.
It's important to understand, how you use your mic and understand the pickup patterns, because that really is how you can control the odd things that go on in a personal studio as opposed to a nice acoustically sterile professional studio,
right,
where they've spent billions and billions of dollars to make it as quiet as possible. So a tank could roll by and you wouldn't know.
Right, exactly.
Whereas my dogs bark and you can hear it all the way in New York City. Anyway, it's an interesting topic. And of course, anytime you have a question about these things, please send them in to us at ewabshop@gmail.com, and we will be happy to discuss it here on our show.
And give us your notes on what you've tried and experiment with, and tell us what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, I know. And I use a couple of. I have my TLM 103 is in my studio now.
Yep,
hanging proudly in there. And when there's like leaf blowers going on and the landscapers are here and stuff, there's no question about it that 416
you get less background noise pickup.
It'll kill enough background noise to where I can actually do a take and no one will ever know. So that's the most important thing.
Nice.
All right. Well, we got lots more coming up. John Melly will be joining us in just a few minutes, and I've got my tip of the week coming up. So don't go anywhere. Stay where you are. You waited a whole 2 weeks. We'll be right back here on East West Audio Body Shop. Don't go away.
VO Studio Tech. Recording made simple. Hi, I'm Peter McHugh.
This is Jim Tasker from Los Angeles, California.
Hi, this is Bill Ratner in Los Angeles.
Hi, this is Scott Rummel here in Yorba Linda, California.
Hi, my name is Rick Wasserman.
Hi, this is Tom Kane.
Hi, my name is Vanessa Marshall.
Hi, my name is Zurich.
Hi, I'm Mary McKittrick.
Randy Thomas chiming in.
Hi, this is Joe Szymanski.
Hey, this is Rick Robles.
Hi, my name is John Patrick Armstrong.
I was turned on to George by none other than Don LaFontaine, who always swore by his health.
George is absolutely awesome.
ISDN, Source Connect, Phone Patch, FTP, you name it, George has set it up.
It's really the best thing I've ever done for myself. I feel free, safe, fearless, like anything is possible in here.
Unless you like to look for opportunities to waste time, call George.
And he did all of that, long distance over the phone and the internet.
I'm very happy with George, and I cherish him.
Thanks, George. You make it easy.
And we're back here on East West Audio Body Shop. Did you miss us? No, you enjoy every second of the commercials we play on here. So Shelley Avellino, the one and only, had an interesting question for us based on your little discussion there.
Yeah.
George, she said, because that's your name, if money was no object, what mic would you get?
You know what? I'm the frugalest guy around, and I've never been the one that gravitates to the most expensive microphone available for anything. That's just not my style. I mean, I'm using a mic that I love right now, and I just can't think of a good reason to replace it. I could replace it with a mic 10 times more. It wouldn't make any difference for the purpose of what I'm doing. And again, that's the AT875R. It's $160. It's fantastic. Are there quieter microphones? Yeah. Are there, microphones that maybe have better full lower end range pickup so you get a richer whatever? Yeah. But this mic is just so idiot proof that you can throw it up in a not very good studio, a tiny booth that's all resonant. And this mic does a great job. I'm gonna go with this mic. I know it's ridiculous, but Dan, do you have you've got some of the best ones out there. Do you have a pie in the sky mic that if you just had your kids were all out of college, you're just printing money, what are you going to go out and buy?
Well, see, I was going to ask if Shelley is so concerned about if money was no object. I was going to ask, if she's married, that sort of thing.
Do you have kids?
Do you have kids? Do you live alone? Yeah, that sort of thing.
Yes, like I say, if it sounds good, it is good. That's right, Shelley. I don't know, Dan, have you thought about it? Like, there's a mic. Is there a mic out there where you're like, I must have this microphone?
I own them.
Yeah.
I have my 416. I have my 103. I have my CAD E100S. I have my Harlan Hogan VO1A.
Mm-hmm.
I have ribbon mics. I even have this guy. This is my favorite here.
Oh yeah.
So you got to have one of these, a carbon button mic.
Coming up tonight on East West Audio Body Shop.
That's right. Knocking everything over here. Or a really cheap AKG shotgun mic.
Oh man, look at that. That by the way, I almost guarantee is a dynamic shotgun microphone.
It's an AKG D900.
Have you ever really tried it?
Yeah, we've had it on the show.
That's
before.
right. That's right.
God, that sounds like crap.
Yeah. It was thin and noisy, and I was like, get rid of that.
That's right. Well, anyway, it's time for the tip of the week. Oh, by the way, happy Canada Day to all our Canadian viewers.
Hey, that's right.
Canada.
Have a donut on me.
That's right. Anyway,
I talked to my Canadian client Dave K before this, and I forgot to wish him Happy Canada Day.
Well, now
Sorry,
you
David.
can. Happy
Sorry,
Canada
David.
Day. Well, talking about really normal people up in Canada who are far more normal than us, we're going to transition into our tip of the week, talking about something that nobody understands, but everybody uses, normalization. So roll that normalization footage. Okay, today I want to talk about normalization. Now, what is normalization? Normalization is something that makes everything louder. And I mean everything louder. It's different from compression, which just makes the loud stuff softer and the softer stuff louder. There's a big difference. So let me demonstrate. Let me show you how we do this with a recording. You hear that click?
Pure music. Go ahead, try it a few more times. Solid, low U-factor windows like this let in the light, keep energy bills lower, and shut out the neighbor's noise, which is important stuff when it's nap time. Okay, that's me recording at my normal level. So if we highlight this and want to normalize it, and we can normalize it to, say, -1, and here's what it looks like normalized, but you really want to do your normalization after you do all your processing. And I'll explain that to you in a second, but let's listen to it just normalized. You hear that click? Pure music. Go ahead, try it a few more times. Solid, low U-factor windows like this let in the light, keep energy bills lower, and shut out the neighbor's noise, which is important stuff when it's nap time.
So you see, it's louder, but it makes everything louder. So let's take it back to where it was originally, like this. And let's first get rid of the background noise, because what happens is it makes the background loud too, and we want to avoid that. So check the noise gate settings here. We'll explain noise gates another time, but suffice to say it's a better way to get rid of background noise. Now, let's listen to this and see what it sounds like without the background noise.
You hear that click? Pure music. Go ahead, try it a few more times. Solid, low You hear that click?
So we've removed any background noise, which was very minor in my studio. And now what we want to do is we want to do the processing that I do. I have a preset called Comp EQ, which is a compressor, which we'll talk about another time, and an equalization to take a little bit of the low end off my voice. And as you can see, it makes the hotter stuff a little quieter and the quieter stuff even with it. Let's give this a listen now.
You hear that click? Pure music. Go ahead, try it a few more times. Solid, low U-factor windows like this let in the light, keep energy bills lower, and shut out the neighbor's noise, which is important stuff when it's nap time.
And that's all the processing that I would do. I changed the equalization curve a little bit. I reduced everything so everything's even using compression. And now is when I would use normalization to get it up to, in my case, I like to use -1. Now, some people might think that's a little loud, and it looks loud, but it's not overmodulating.
You hear that click? Pure music. Go ahead, try it a few more times. Solid, low U-factor windows like this let in the light, keep energy bills lower, and shut out the neighbor's noise, which is important stuff when it's nap time.
So those of you who tend to record too low, again, you're going to make the background noise louder when you use normalization. So you want to get rid of it, and you want to then boost your signal up to as loud as you possibly can without overmodulating. That's normalization. So the bottom line is you want to do all of your processing first. You want to do your compression, your noise reduction, all these other things that you do, all your editing, you want to do that first. Your final product, if it's not up to -3 or -1, depending on what your preference is, then you use normalization. You also want to record at as full a volume as you can. And again, as you saw, it's not overmodulated when you normalize to -1 or to -3. It's loud, but it's really clear. And that's my tip for the week.
So the most important thing you got to remember is that it's like most things with any processing, it's not these major things that you're trying to do, like with EQ, I got to really raise the bass, or I got subtle little things to raise things to a certain point, maybe half a dB at the most. But it can make a difference in how audible something is, compared to its background and stuff like that. So normalization is important, but it's the last thing you do. I know Uncle Roy will probably argue with me. He'll say, no, you normalize it first, then you do your processing, and then you normalize it again.
That's what I say.
There's, and George says that too.
That's one of my tricks. It's a trick.
So, you try everything and you find out what works best. And again, remember one other thing. It's not necessarily, because I got into it with somebody this afternoon, it's not necessarily how much you love the sound. It's how much the people at the other end like the sound, because you ain't hiring you. So make sure you find out what it is those producers want. You had a thought on this?
Yeah, and normalizing is an interesting tool. I mean, and it's a lot of confusion about it. You answered it pretty well in the video. It's really just a volume control that has a little bit of extra intelligence, right? So if you would use gain in your DAW to make up volume because you recorded much levels too low, and you added 15 dB of gain using your gain control, it's going to add a lot of noise. Well, the same thing's going to happen with normalize. So it's a really great tool just for making minor calibrations. But we've been talking about peak normalize. There's also this other thing called RMS normalization. I don't know if it's going to become more and more commonplace to use this, but I did do a Whittam's World about LUFS. Go check it out sometime. It's LUFS, which is loudness units full scale. And it's it's like RMS. It's basically an average volume. And it sounds like there's a new standard that's becoming, I will dare say, a broadcast standard. But we'll see if this standard becomes the norm for voiceover. But basically what it means is that we're going to probably start using an RMS type normalizing function. It's set to around minus 24 dB. So if as an experiment, try this. Try normalizing some audio to minus 3 dB peak, and then undo it and just see what it does. Then undo it. Then try normalizing to RMS minus 24 and see how the levels compare. You might be surprised that they're almost exactly the same. But it's just the way it measures the levels. One measures it off of a peak, one measures it off the average, and the peak one is by far the easiest to work with, the easiest to understand, the easiest one to get repeatable results from. So it's by far the most idiot-proof way of normalizing, I think.
Yeah. This is the basic of the basics of stuff that you need to understand about your waveforms and the output you put out there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, one last thing. Unless you're using Twisted Wave, if you're using RMS normalization in some tools, if you don't set it right, you can actually take the levels and go well beyond zero. You can clip the heck out of the waveform, right? So be really careful using RMS. And if you're not sure what it's going to do, just experiment, but stick with peak. You can't really ruin the audio using peak normalization unless your levels are way too low.
All right. You're not going to get this information anywhere else.
I don't think so.
It's only going to get it here. So keep on showing up here every Monday night when we're here. And we'll try and keep getting this stuff to you.
It's summertime. Give us a break.
Yes, that's right. John Melly will be joining us in just a couple of minutes. So we're going to talk about some alternative forms of marketing your voiceover business. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after this.
Voila, this is East-West Audio Body Shop with Dan Leonard in the East and George Whittam in the West. Merci. Et maintenant, back to the show.
Oh, bonsoir, everyone. Welcome back to East-West Audio Body Shop. And let's welcome somebody who tried to get on a couple of weeks ago. But, sometimes the internet just doesn't want to play with you. And but we got to play with him tonight because he's joining us from a radio studio in Boston, Mass. John Melly.
How you doing, Dan?
Fine. What'd you get? You get find a place to park your car there?
Everything's just wicked pissy here in Boston.
All right. Well, welcome to the show. We're glad we got you tonight and actually can see and actually hear you tonight.
Thank you.
Now, well, first, quickly, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the voiceover beeswax.
Hours and hours of misspent youth finally paying off.
Oh, good.
Long, twisted path, basically. I do have a varied career. I could go on a while about it, but basically,
Time's up.
Yep, cool. Here I am. No, I've had a lot of different experiences. I paid for college by being a meat cutter, but I always wanted to be in broadcasting and do voiceover. I thought I wanted to be a DJ, but when I found out what DJs do and really what they didn't do, I fell in love with audio production because there it gave me the opportunity to work with sound and write, and select music and pick sound effects and voice different characters or just play the straight voice and just have a finished product at the end of it. And my grandfather gave me my first radio when I was a kid, and I absolutely fell in love with it. And I had a cousin who worked in news on WRKO in Boston in the 70s when they were still playing music. And so those two things made it real, made it possible for me. And so I always had my eyes set on it, but got into college and went into political science and got sidetracked there, was a lobbyist for a number of years. And always had in the back of the head saying, hey, you remember that dream you had of being on the radio and doing voiceover? And I just, people ask the question, how do you get started in something like this? And I think it was Woody Allen said, show up. 80% of success is showing up. And so I went to broadcasting school at night. I did board hopping at 2:30 in the morning on Sundays, and then I go to work the next day. I did whatever it took to get in, and then I started off as part-time copywriting, and then production, full-time voiceover and production, and now my own side business as well. So that's it in a nutshell.
Well, you and I have lived parallel lives.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, only yours a few years after mine.
Okay.
So, you could have learned from me, avoided all this, just got straight into voiceover.
Anyway, it's been fun.
Yeah, there's nothing more fun for a young person than to be in radio. Now, you've got a different way of looking at marketing. Now, we talked about marketing in our marketing roundtable a couple of weeks ago, and there was a lot of interesting points brought up about these are the things you do, these are the things you do, these are the standard things. You don't look at it quite the same way. I mean, you do some of the standard things, but you've got a slightly different tack on some of the stuff that you produce.
Right. So to step back for just a second and to explain why I've done what I've done, I was at a marketing conference a number of years ago. And I should say that the result, all of this is as a result of me wanting to produce and write more effective copy for the clients of the radio station. And this is a marketing axiom that applies to all businesses, that it's easier to keep a customer and less expensive to keep a customer than it is to go out and find a new one. And so I always wanted to improve my marketing for the copy that I was writing. And so I started to apply it to marketing my own business. And really this became something of a necessity because if you're working in a studio, 8-9 hours a day, the ability to go out and audition, even audition online, is you're limited by the amount of time that you have. And so one of the things that I've noticed is, back to the marketing conference I was attending, somebody asked the question, said, are you a commodity? And then he helped define that question. It was the question, he asked two more questions. What are the top 5 products and services that you offer? And does your competition offer those same products and services? And if your answer to that is yes, then you're a commodity. And a commodity is basically something readily available and easily found. And so if you're in and I'm not putting the pay-to-play sites down because I have accounts on them. I've gotten clients from them, very good clients from them. But you're in an atmosphere where you're literally competing against thousands of other people for a smaller number of voiceover gigs. And so I said, what I did was I said, how can I turn this 180 degrees? Instead of me going after a number of voiceover jobs that people have available for me to apply for, how can I get them to come to me saying, I want you to do my voiceovers. And so I started figuring out ways to attract clients to me based on my body of work, my experience, and the marketing that I was doing, but also creating products that people were interested in buying from me. So if I have a product that I've used my voiceover and production talents to create, then I'm the only guy in the room if it's something that meets their needs for business. So there's no competition there. Does that make sense?
It does, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you find some of these things, and how do you go about creating your own product and finding the right markets to sell it in?
Sure. Okay. So one of the things I'm a big advocate of is using your own background, your own story, your own interest to find products and services that you're interested. You have people who have like interests would be interested in buying from you. So I come from a small family business background, and we used to own a retail shop, and we were always figuring a way. It was a greeting card and stationery office supply store. And we did a lot of social printing. We did a lot of wedding invitations and birth announcements and all that, and was forever trying to find ways to get people to come back into the store. And so having that background of a small business owner, I started studying marketing and attending marketing conferences where other small business owners were. And, you start to ask them, and part of cutting through the clutter in today is standing out and positioning yourself as an expert within your industry or your niche. And so I started figuring out ways that I could create products and services that would do that for business owners, and they would pay me for it. And I had a set price and a set product and had options to the product. And, I started going to these conferences, and I would exhibit at them. I would do mailings. I would do joint venture mailings with people who had good lists of people that were predisposed to buying products that resonated well with them. There's a concept, Dan and George, called right angle marketing, and it's basically, somebody asked me if you were going to go to do a trade show, what trade show would you do? And my answer was, I would go to something or conference that I myself would be interested in attending. So, people like to go to Comic-Con or you name it. I mean, the Periwinkle Collectors Association of America probably has a conference somewhere on Cape Cod, and you could do an audiobook on brown periwinkles versus beige periwinkles. I mean, there's that much stuff out there, and so you can create a product that piques the interest of the people that are attending these different things.
Yeah, I think I remember I was watching a video you did about this once, like say something about with dentists. You went to a dental convention.
Yeah. So that was an interesting thing. That was an offshoot of a marketing conference that I was going to, and so I had done this joint venture mailing with a guy who had a very responsive list, and I was noticing a pattern. I was getting a lot of dentists buying this from me, and I was going, dentists, what's with all these dentists? It's kind of getting boring producing all this stuff for dentists. And I, walked away from that thought process for a while, and I went, it's a responsive market, So how can I work with dentists and how can I customize this product for dentists so that I can sell to them? So I went to a dental conference, and I set up a booth there, and I was able to make a short presentation, and I was the only voiceover guy in the room. There was no competition, and I did all right. You have to plan these things well. You have to know your audience as well, because there are costs. You got to travel. I took my wife with me, thank God. God bless her. She gave up her time, got on a plane and flew to Dallas with me. You get up at your hotel and marketing collateral, all that kind of stuff. So you got to factor all those things in. But at the end of the day, were the sales enough to justify that expense? And yeah, it was.
Well, so what kind of a product was it?
It's an audio commercial. It's basically an audio infomercial, and everything that we do it's a half-hour to 45-minute interview program, where everything in the program is designed to position the business owner as the celebrity and expert within their market area. If it's a local market, that's one kind of a market, but if they've got a national platform, we can certainly deal with that too. But we get an announcer, we do the whole bio, we do an intro, we have music, we have segues, and in the segues, we do commercials for their business. We do recorded testimonials. We do a soft sell offer toward, the end of the thing. And then we get custom artwork produced for it. And so they've got a very leverageable piece of marketing content. They can take the audio, get it transcribed. They can create MP3 files from it. Create blog posts and emails, yada, yada, yada.
Put it on their websites, of course.
Yeah. And they love it, and it's a referral tool, and we produce it in a way that it has a very high perceived value. A lot of people kind of go, what are you sending us CDs for? Well, that's in the voiceover world.
Right.
Outside of us, CDs and the way we package it, it's got a high perceived value. So, if you have a tri-fold brochure, that's okay. But if you're handing them a CD with artwork and all that kind of stuff, people don't throw that out, and it gets passed around. It's a great referral tool, and so they're happy.
Right.
That's what it is.
Well, and that's just one tiny little niche that you were able to pursue there. I mean, so how do you find some of these things? I think you talked about, what are your own experiences and stuff.
Right. So for people who are interested in pursuing something like this, in the Voiceover Marketing Podcast, I think it was episode 19, I talked about using your own personal story as a marketing tool. And there are a number of ways that you can leverage that content as well. You write your story, and when I'm meeting a client for the first time or we're engaging via email or something, I'll send them a copy of my story. And if you ask me how I got started in this business, Dan, that was the first question you asked me. That's the question everybody wants to know. And so I give it to them. And so there's that. But through that process of writing, it's a good exercise for yourself because it triggers memories of stuff that you've done before that you have knowledge and expertise in. And here's something that's really cool that voiceover people can really, it's the whole chicken egg kind of a thing for people who are getting into voiceovers. It's like, how can I make money? And what should I charge if I'm first getting started in voiceovers? But then, because I don't have a lot of experience, but then how do I raise my rates down the road and not alienate the clients that I've had in the past? So here's the neat way around that, is you create a product in something that you've already got expertise in. So for one audience, it's like, oh, John's big into periwinkles on Cape Cod, so this just makes sense that he would do an audiobook on brown versus white periwinkles. And, oh my gosh, there's mother of pearl in there too. And so, you become the expert in that. So that it becomes a natural offshoot for it. Then you turn around, you do a few more of these products and projects, and you say, okay, and from that experience, you say, okay, here's how much it takes for me to do this. Here's the time it takes to record this right, edit it right, all that kind of stuff. And you keep track of all of that. Somebody else comes to you and says, so how much would it cost for you to do this for me? Well, for a project like this, I typically get XYZ. And you refer back to the projects that you've already created for yourself. So you've got the background, you've got a body of work to refer to. In one way, it's like, oh, okay, that's just an extension of your expertise already here. So it makes sense for you to charge a higher price for it. And then once you've got that higher price in that, you can refer back to say, yeah, I can do that webinar or slideshow presentation for you for XYZ. That's what I get for a project like that.
Right.
That makes sense?
It makes total sense. And what you're doing is you're creating a product that is sellable over and over again, as opposed to recording once and getting paid for it once.
Absolutely. That's the nice thing about something like that, is that it's every time somebody buys it, it's just money. It's working for you 24/7. It's leverageable content. It's really the closest thing to true residual income that you can get.
And that makes total sense. And of course, I don't think there's anybody in this business that didn't do something else.
Right.
I mean, my son is looking for work this summer, and I remember we were talking to somebody who I do business with, and he gave them a resume, and her response, she said, I can't hire you right now. Whatever you do, don't go into food service.
Yeah.
And we've all worked in food service, and we know exactly what she means.
The funny thing is when I worked in politics, my first boss in politics said to me, John, if you like laws and you like sausage, you'd hate to see how we make both. And I had made sausage, and I got the opportunity to see how laws were made. And you know what? She was right.
Not much difference there, is there?
We love the making sausage analogy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, it's an interesting topic, and there's a lot of other parts to it. One of the things that you were trying to intervene during the marketing roundtable we had a couple of weeks ago, and Kelly Buttrick was talking about sending out cards, and you had some thoughts about when to send out cards and how.
Right. So I think the point that Kelly was trying to make was that there was discussion about trying to send something in the holidays was not a really good idea because so many people tried to do the same thing. And in marketing, you're always looking for ways to cut through the clutter. Thanksgiving is an ideal time to send thank you notes or thank you cards or thank you gifts to clients. And it makes perfect sense, but nobody does it. So, and it's right at the edge of the holiday season. It's the start of the holiday season. So sending out something around Thanksgiving time, thank you very much for your business, all that, it just makes perfect sense. Makes more sense than sending out in the holidays.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'd love to ask our audience to ask a few questions. And while they're starting to think of those questions,
we've got a few lining up already. Yeah.
We've got a few lining up already. You've got a webinar coming up with our good friend John Florian over at VoiceOver Extra. You're going to go in a lot more depth about this, aren't you?
Yeah, thank you very much. John Florian was gracious enough to invite me to host a webinar for me. He reached out to me, I think, back in the springtime. And so this Thursday, July 9th at 9 p.m., we're going to be doing a webinar, and we're going to talk about, I'm going to do some number crunching for the folks that attend, talking about rates. Earlier I was talking about the commodity aspect of voiceover and how to avoid being a commodity. Unfortunately, a lot of folks, the way that they differentiate themselves from the competition is by price. And that can, aside from lowering your prices and kind of being, kind of a buzzkill for people who are working on voiceovers, it's really not a good idea. And I talk a lot about, I go through some math about how what you think you're making isn't really what you're making. And then I'm going to go into, okay, once we've figured out how much we want to make, how do I go about getting that? And so I go through a process of teaching people how to get paid up front, or at least getting a pretty hefty deposit before you even turn on the microphone. And Dan, if I may, I've got an offer for people. If they register by midnight tonight for the webinar, I'm going to give anybody who registers by midnight tonight a template copy of the document that I use to actually accomplish that with clients. So if they want to go ahead and do that, I think you guys have the link. Do that by midnight tonight. You can go ahead and take advantage of that.
Yep, we got a Bitly link. Make sure you use the Bitly link you see on the show tonight so he knows you came from here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Type it out. It's not a working link there.
But at any rate, I'm really excited to do it. I've got a lot of neat stuff to share with people, and it's really going to go into some depth, So I'm looking forward to it. I talked a little bit about it in the last episode of the podcast too, about mindset and money. But I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
All right. Well, and it's great to go to webinars. You can learn some stuff. And this is something just a little bit different that you normally don't get. It's not coaching on voiceover. It's not me yakking on and on and on about your acoustics, which are always fascinating and fun to go. You should go to those too. But this is talking about some alternative marketing. And John Melly is going to be presenting that on VoiceOver Extra. All right. Well, we'll get to some of our audience questions in just a couple of minutes. But right now we have to talk about one of our best friends. And we have many of them, and there are lots of you watching tonight. But one of our best friends is our sponsor, the one and only Harlan Hogan. And Harlan Hogan makes stuff for voiceover and sells stuff for voiceover. Like the amazing Harlan Hogan. Can we see that, George? Have we got that? Is that in focus?
Yeah, it's
Hang
good.
on, let me put that on camera. Hang on a second.
Get that on there.
Switching cameras and taking it.
All right. Like the Harlan Hogan Signature Series headphones for voiceover. They are optimized for voiceover. Not only optimized for voiceover, they're made for voiceover. They're not for listening to Pink Floyd. They're made for listening to your voice. It makes your voice sound like it's you, not like you really using proximity effect or something.
Not some glossy, shiny, fake version of you.
No, it's you as you exist, as I like to say.
Yeah.
But they're not only do they sound great and the way they're designed, but they're also built to last. I mean, they've got the Twistaflex headband. They have memory foam covered with leather, making them very, very comfortable.
Yes,
they're
leather.
very, very good for voiceover, and they're not bad compared to some of the other manufacturers like Sennheiser and Shure. And does Koss still make headphones?
Koss still makes headphones. Yep.
Koss still makes headphones.
They look like World War II bomber headphones compared to these things.
That's true. That's true. So go on over to voiceoveressentials.com and you can purchase those or the venerable Harlan Hogan VO1A. The voiceover optimized microphone, and he's got all sorts of other stuff there, and customer service is great. And all you got to do is go over to voiceoveressentials.com. Tell them that we sent you there, so that they know that you're actually watching this show and that he should continue to be our sponsor, which is really important. So go on over there. Thank you, Harlan, for being our sponsor for 148 episodes.
Hasn't missed a single one.
Signed up before we even went on the air with this.
He was like, "You guys are going to talk on the internet? I'll sponsor that."
Oh, sure. No problem.
He's crazy.
That's awesome.
No. We think he's brilliant. And
yes.
Thank you, Harlan, again.
Far more brilliant than we are some days. Anyway, lots of you have asked questions, and Anthony has placed them nicely in front of us here. So why don't we start off with some of those, John? Diana Birdsall asks, where did you go to college?
Hey, Diana. How are you? Thank you very much. I went to the University of Massachusetts at Amherst.
Ah. If you're an in-stater, that's not a bad place to go. Out of state, mortgage the mansion.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's crazy. My wife works at Bridgewater State University, which is part of not the University of Massachusetts system, but it's crazy for out-of-state tuition now. I had no idea until she told me. I said, "You kidding me? That's crazy." I got out of there, I think, in 4 years for what it costs an out-of-stater to go for 1 year now.
Yeah, really. Well,
Anyway.
My son wanted to go to Amherst. We're like, no, it's not going to happen.
So you can speak from experience.
Oh yeah, no, he's going to a SUNY school.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I had a wonderful time there. I got a degree in political science. I did very well in it. I found it fascinating. I met a lot of interesting people. I did a lot of interesting things. Well, one of the things I discovered was that this just wasn't for me. There's no closure in politics. It's like I would go out and give presentations on legislation that would affect the industry that I was representing. And I'd say, "Hey, you remember that thing I told you 3 months ago?" Yeah, forget it.
BS now.
It's all changed. It's like what's happening in D.C. No, that's no good anymore. Anyway.
Yeah. Now you also have a podcast. You've been talking about that. Where can people obtain your podcast?
Yes, it's at voiceovermarketingpodcast.com. And you can also find that on iTunes and Stitcher. And try and get an episode out once a week. And it's just been a lot of fun connecting with people all around the world. And I know Diana's a listener. And several other folks who told me that they're going to be listening in tonight were also listening, are also listeners of the podcast. So I want to thank all of you for doing that. And just to reach messages from people in India and Australia and all over North America. It's just been a lot of fun. And I had one woman send me, I think it was Debbie Feldman. Debbie, if you're listening, she sent me she actually took the exercise and wrote her story. She shared with me her first draft, and then also sent me a picture of her granddaughter too, who's absolutely adorable. And so it's little things like that it's such a cool community, and it's just a lot of fun. So
yeah. All right. Arlene Tannis asks, Yes, where there is no competition in voiceover, you've got my attention.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it's Arlene, it's just about finding an audience. And that's really the key thing, is finding an audience of people who you have some knowledge of, and that you can bring your skills and your talents for voiceover, and if you're doing production, all that as well. If you want to put together an audiobook, you get somebody to do some graphics for you, or if you like to do that as well. I was working with a woman who does poetry, and so she's working on doing an audiobook for her with her poetry. And so she's doing that. She's going to publish that. She already published a book on Kindle. And so there are all kinds of ways that you can leverage your talents to create income. And like you said, Dan, once you've got a product, it just continues to work for you.
Yep.
So just the audience is the key thing. Finding the right audience for your stuff, because then you're the king or the queen in that area, because you're probably going to be the only voice talent in that realm. And so you'll own that space.
Yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
just to transfer this to another industry, another very competitive industry, photography. My wife's a photographer, and it's been very hard for her to find a niche that has not been overly exploited especially in Los Angeles. You shoot, and within voiceover, you voice what you know. So pick a hobby, pick an industry that you love, pick something and work in that industry first. Well, with her, it was having a child. We had a child. She shot beautiful photos of our child and other children. But you know what? There's a lot of moms with cameras that say they're professional photographers. So it ended up that she got into yoga and then started photographing men who do yoga. I mean, and you think, wow, yoga, that's been photographed 1,000 times, but not men who do yoga. So you find exactly, you find those little things that have not been overly covered yet in your world. Find a niche in a niche and start there, and then you can, probably branch out.
Yeah, absolutely. There's an expression that says riches and niches, and the Europeans go, "What's a niche?"
Right.
Yeah,
I'm used to the Euro pronunciation.
Yeah, there are riches and niches. Go get the rich niche. I'll have a niche.
Yeah. I'll do the next one. Steve Gonzalez.
Go, it's a technical question.
You need a break, Dan. Your voice, you've been talking nonstop. Do you see a move more to USB discs for demos and bio, or still through CDs, or both? Those USB flash drives, thumb drives, whatever you want to call them.
Do I see any of that?
Yeah.
No, I mostly get MP3s from folks that want to send work in to me.
By email?
By email, or what they do is they'll ask if they can send one, and then they send me an MP3. But you know what? If you can package something in an interesting way, it's going to get open.
Right.
People, here's the thing. People are bored. And they're afraid of.
Especially if they're watching this show.
Not this show.
No, this particular show.
No, but I mean, think about it. It's like you walked out. If you're out there in the public at all, you go to a place, you get a cup of coffee somewhere, and hey, how's it going? It's Monday, or hey, it's Friday, right? Or something. And they're bored. They want to be entertained. So if you can find a way to package a demo in an entertaining way that's going to get their attention and get to the top of the pile, they're going to open it. So I think it's. I know a guy who was doing mailings with bank bags. The money bags with the zipper on the top.
Yeah.
He put a label on that. And he put his mailing stuff inside that. It wasn't for voiceover, but it's like hire me for your voiceover. It's like money in the bank. I mean, you could do all kinds of fun things with it. Wow. Somebody gets a bank bag in the mail, they're going to open it. So and the thing is, people look at marketing and think, oh, well, I got to get this thing out. And marketing can tap into that whole creative thing that we love to do so much. It can be a lot of fun.
Yeah. I remember one great little stunt. Company was marketing cloth diapers.
I know.
And they came up with this great press kit and this great product. They sent out the diapers with opened Hershey's Kisses in them.
Oh my God.
Got your attention. It was.
Yeah. And you're still talking about it.
It's 30 years later. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, so things like that stick with people.
Absolutely.
Stick in the diaper.
There
you go.
Dan, you
Amy Fisher, the real Amy Fisher asks, does John sell that kind of project online as well as conventions?
Yeah.
I guess product maybe was what you meant.
Product,
Yes.
yeah. I did the audio commercials online, and I have a couple of niche sites that I market it through. I do a lot of stuff through joint mailings too. So if I try and work well with people who have a list that they have influence with. And that's called an endorsed mailing.
Right.
And if you can get somebody who's a client of yours who has access to a group of people that could benefit from the same product and service and not necessarily compete against them in the same market, they can do what's called an endorsed mailing for you. And it's something like, John, I hired John to do XYZ. I really enjoy working with John. I think this is a product or service that you could benefit from. Please feel free to contact him. And then what you can do is make an arrangement with the person who's doing the endorsed mailing. You can pay referral fees. Not all businesses or practices allow referral fees. It's, certain things are, I think they have ethics, or certain industries have to ascribe to a code of ethics where they can't do that, but you can do something else for them, But yeah, the endorsed mailing is a great way to go about doing stuff like that. And also online. And then again, it's all about the audience and targeting the audience that you want to reach, and then driving them to whatever media. A website is really just another form of media. It's like a mailing, a telephone call, a recording, whatever. A website's just another outlet.
What do you think of bobblehead dolls? Do you think sending out bobblehead dolls are a good way to market your
This is not me, because he's got hair, but, well, sort of. But yeah, they're. I don't know. I wouldn't spend the money on something like this.
No.
We're scratching the bobblehead dolls.
This is my broadcasting mentor of sorts, or idol, Leo Laporte.
Leo Laporte.
Yeah,
I love it.
It was a Teespring. They sold so many of these you had to buy in. 200, I think they sold, and then they shipped them out.
I'm half kidding about this bobblehead, but this bobblehead is of a guy, a real good teacher of mine and a mentor. His name is Dan Kennedy. And I started studying marketing. A lot of the stuff that I know through marketing is from Dan. And he's got all kinds of great books on marketing, usually under the No BS book title series. Are you familiar with Dan?
Oh, guys? Absolutely.
Yeah. He's an interesting guy, and he actually I used to send him my newsletter, and he actually quoted me in his ebook of a No BS book on direct marketing for non-direct marketing businesses. And a guy by the name of John Lano reached out to me and said, "Hey, I saw you made Dan Kennedy's book." And I was like, "What?" I had no idea. I said, "Send me a picture of that thing." So anyway, but really, really, really smart guy, very strong in his opinions, but he's really brilliant, and I learned an awful lot from him. So I would recommend those resources to folks if they want to read on stuff. Dan Kennedy's No BS book series is great.
Yeah. See, now we have to take the EWABS clickers and make them talking clickers. Go click, click.
I know. I made sound chip devices that I could mail out in mailings that when you open the envelope, it had a light sensor.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
They were about $5.50 each. I had to buy 50 of them, and of course that was about 6 months before I changed the name of my company, and now I have about 30 of them that are completely obsolete.
Yeah.
So make sure that if you do go through the process of making something custom that's costly, make sure you go through with it and ship the damn things, because they may not be useful for too long.
Yeah, that's a great point. And another thing that kind of ties into that, George, is that if you do have a list, don't mail the whole list at once. Do it in segments, because you want to test the list and see if your message is working. If you hit the whole list all at once, then you're not hitting the right message. And, there's been plenty of times where I've come up with a title or a marketing piece and you send it out there and, you get the crickets. It's like, whoa, what happened?
Yeah.
So a lot of it's trial and error, and you're going to miss, and then every once in a while you'll hit. Hopefully the hits will make up for the misses.
Yes. Devox asks, John, on your podcast, you're often interviewing people and wind it down earlier than we listeners might like. Mindful of the clock. Well, okay, so we didn't expect a review here. Is there a reason you can't go into more depth with these guests? Trying to keep the show short or what? Like we're doing with you.
Well, first of all, I'll take it as a compliment that you're enjoying the content enough that you want more of it. So thank you.
Keep them wanting more.
Yeah.
Well, there's part of that, but at the same time, I also have to be respectful of the guest's time. They're carving out. When I finish, I do edit it. It's not a lot of editing, but, it's probably about 40 minutes of audio, and then we cut it down to probably about 30, 35 minutes, and I might do a little bit of a monologue in the intro of the show. So to ask somebody to take out an hour of their day when they're really doing me a favor, because I don't pay them to do it, they're doing me a solid, and it's good exposure for them too, so they do see the benefit of doing that. But I just want to be respectful of their time too, so that's primarily the main reason.
Yeah, there's a balance. You gotta have a balance there.
Yes, but thanks for the compliment.
Yeah, Mike Kozlowski, wasn't that a character from Monsters Inc?
Kozlowski,
Mike Kozlowski. That was Billy Crystal's character. Anyway, sorry, Mike. Don't take it personally.
Tell us if that's your real name.
Yeah,
Mike's a listener of mine. I know that.
Yes.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
Yes. Anyway, he asks, does John market just marketing coaching services, or does he offer voiceover coaching as well?
Yeah, I do some voiceover coaching. Typically, they're folks that are local to me. I do some marketing coaching via phone. I could explore working one-on-one with a voice client. I tend to think that people work better in person for voiceover coaching. That's just been my experience from having attended coaching classes with different voiceover coaches. I think it's personally it's more effective for me to actually be in the room with the person so that you can see there's a lot of unspoken communication, so that's just my thing. But if you want to reach out to me, Mike, but you can private message me and I'd be more than happy to talk to you about that. Thank you.
All right. George, you get the next one.
Sure. Shelly Avellino says, John, how do you find the right person to contact once you find a company you'd like to approach? Sometimes it's hard to find the right person. Any tricks there? Like plug names in at, nameofcompany.com, that kind of thing?
No, I don't. I really try and, I don't want to use the word, I don't want to say this the way that you might take it the wrong way. I really try and do this organically and naturally and talk to people and network. Harry Legg was on the podcast last episode, and one of the things he talks a lot about is authentic networking, and couldn't agree more with him. And it's all about just connecting with folks and finding out, the right person, for one thing, might not be the right person for what you want to do or what you can offer them. And so I don't know if that makes sense, but
I don't know.
There's no real, it's like, you don't want to be the vacuum salesman where they close the door and you stick your foot in it. It's like, oh, wait. You want to be kind of natural about it and be authentic, I guess is the best way to be.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's like the pop-up ads on websites, right? When you're on the site and you're trying to leave and it pops up full screen, make sure you don't forget, or why are you leaving, or sign up for our mailing.
Are you sure?
Off! Please.
Sorry, guys. I don't like that.
Force quit.
Yeah.
But they must work, because they keep doing it.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Arlene Tanis asks, besides your thank you type cards, what other contact communications do you use with your clients?
Newsletter.
Good idea.
Good old newsletter, huh?
Yep.
Yeah. Hard copy, put it in the mail, newsletter.
Oh, paper newsletter. Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's different.
Yeah, it's like I've missed a few months on mine, but I got to tell you, I get comments from people who read it or have read it in the past, and you get work from it. And you don't. It's one of those things. How easy is it for people to delete an email? But if you get, again, it's the right audience. It's I did an episode of the podcast. Yeah, I mean paper. You know.
Yeah.
There's Jim Palmer, the newsletter guru. I had him on as a guest, and he gives some really interesting statistics on email open rates versus mail open rates. And he had some really cool stories of testimonials of people who use newsletters. The thing is if you make it entertaining enough, again, people are bored. And it's not about, if you're going to do a newsletter, don't talk about microphone technique to your insurance company client. They don't care.
Yeah, watch
they're
your
hiring.
audience.
Yeah, they're hiring you to do that.
Yeah.
It's like a guy was talking about how Jim was talking. The guy who was on my podcast episode talking about how his accountant sends him a newsletter like 3 times a year, and it's all these new revisions to the IRS regulations. He's like, oh God, I don't read that. That's what I pay you for.
Right.
So write about yourself, write about what's going on in your world, write about adventures you've gone on or mishaps that have had, the flat tire you got last week. Oh, you'll never believe what happened. People get caught up in characters and stories, and you want to be an interesting person to your customers. And if you're out there with a newsletter, you're not necessarily selling, but you're staying in front of them.
Top of mind. Yeah, totally.
All right. And our last question here, of course, talking about your webinar coming up next week, Amy Fisher asks, do we need a promo code for John's voiceover extra session?
I don't think there is a promo code. I think just the URL you guys put up on the screen, you can just type that in and it'll take you right to the registration page at voiceoverextra.com.
Well, that makes it easy.
And while I was sitting here, I subscribed on my podcatcher on my Android phone to your podcast.
Thank you very much.
The queue. I consume almost all the shows I consume are audio only. Even though I do a video show, I'm more likely to listen to the show later than to watch it. And I know a lot of our audience too is audio only. And in fact, I think even more of the audience is audio only.
I love podcasts. This all started for me because I started doing podcast intros for other podcasters. And I was very fortunate to be on a couple of podcasts that have really taken off and started getting referrals from people. And so I said, geez, I got to really start and listen to how they're using me. I wanted to get the context of what it was. I was sending them the audio. I wanted to hear how they were using it. So I started listening to it. I was like, this is cool. I love this. I want to do one of these things. And so I started, and I've had an absolute ball doing it. But I'm like you. I have about a half-hour drive into the studio every day and a half-hour ride home. And I love to listen to podcasts. I listen to podcasts about
Me too.
There's a great podcast. If you guys like Johnny Carson at all?
Of course.
Okay, so there's this great podcast put out by Mark Malkoff, Malkoff, and it's called the Carson Podcast. And he's had Rich Little, who was one of my idols. How many of us? Rich Little. Anytime he was on, gosh, he had him on. He's had Kevin Nealon was just recently on. He's had Tom Dreesen on, Byron Allen. He had Carol Burnett on. He's had all these great people. And the fascinating thing about listening to these podcasts is you hear about, and this is a great marketing lesson, is you hear about how these stand-up comics prepared to get on the Tonight Show. They had it as a goal. It didn't just happen. And some of these guys would actually get tickets to go watch the Tonight Show so that they could sit in the seats and see where the band was going to be and who the floor people were and the camera guys and the cue card people and all that. And so they were doing the research, and then they started picturing themselves on the stage. And before you knew it, they were hitting the clubs, and then they were getting called in. And then, Johnny was walking into their new dressing room, and the curtain was open, and there they were. So it's fun to hear those stories. It's really cool.
That is wild. All right.
Good one.
Weird, wild stuff. Yeah.
I started talking, and he just won't stop.
I know.
Thanks,
John.
man.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on tonight and being patient with us and coming back and giving us a whole lesson here on a really different way of looking at voiceover marketing and marketing all sorts of stuff, actually.
Oh, man, it's been a lot of fun. And thanks again for the invite. I mean, for 2 hours 2 weeks ago, I'm sitting there going, no!
Yeah, I can only imagine.
And I'm thinking, and Dan, we got on the call about a half hour before the thing went live, and you said, folks, if you can't figure this out, this is your business. You have no.
Oh, God. Hey, man, the week before, I was the one running the show. I was broadcasting the show, and I couldn't get the show on the air for a half an hour. So believe me, I know how it feels.
This has been an absolute ball. I've had a lot of fun. This has been a blast. Thanks for having me on and asking all the great questions.
All righty. John Melly, go see his webinar over at VoiceOver Extra. All right, we've got a little bit more to go, so don't go away. John, don't go away quite yet.
Nope.
We'll be right back here on East West Audio Body Shop.
Let that man leave.
Yeah.
VoiceOver Extra, the voiceover industry's online news, education, and resource center 24/7. Hundreds, probably thousands of free how-to articles for voiceover success, ranging from home studio to voice acting to business. A free voiceover industry directory, calendar of industry events, resource links, a store, and much more. Bi-monthly webinars on all topics of voiceover, free subscriptions to newsletters, reports, announcements, daily news, and features at voiceoverextra.com.
You know it's true. The best way to learn something, anything, is to completely live it, to breathe it, to experience it, to immerse yourself totally in it. Welcome to VoiceOver Immersion, only at Voice 2014. The VoiceOver International Creative Experience. The Voice Convention is 3 days of complete and total immersion in the craft and the business of voiceover. Voice is all about education, technology, and community. At the Voice Convention, you'll have an opportunity to meet and network with some of the top voiceover professionals and coaches from around the world. There are more than 30 programs and special events scheduled with coaches from the United States, Canada, Germany, the United Kingdom, Argentina, and more. Are you struggling with your auditions? Do you perhaps have some challenges with your equipment? Well, Voice is where you will get your questions answered. Every major niche of voiceover is covered. Audiobooks, promo, commercials, corporate narration, and a lot more. Ask anyone who's been to a Voice convention and they'll tell you it's a fire hose of information. It's a life-changing and a career-changing experience. There's no other voiceover event like it.
If you haven't been here, you need to come. It has far exceeded my expectations.
I have learned so much from the presenters at this event.
Whether you're a working pro or just getting started, it doesn't matter. Because at Voice, you can get the tools you need to take your voiceover work not just to the next level, but to a level you've never dreamed of. The VoiceOver International Creative Experience. VoiceOver Immersion. Only at Voice 2014, August 27th through the 30th in Anaheim, California. And please join us in welcoming our premier sponsor, Edge Studio. The VoiceOver International Creative Experience. So what are you waiting for? You know you want to be there. Register today at voice2014.com. Voice 2014, making your voiceover work better than ever.
And we're back here on East West Audio Body Shop. And again, thanks to John Melly for joining us and talking about some alternative marketing ideas. You know, and of course, if you can always watch the show again. If there's something you missed there, you can just watch the recording of this on YouTube, where all 147 other episodes reside. So anyway, so what do we got for Oh, you have to play the announcements thing.
Oh, yes. I have all that work to put this back together.
Don't touch that dial. Seriously, stay with us, please. Dan and George will be right back.
Okay. Yes. What was I saying? God. No, I promised I was going to play that clip, and I'll try it again. Here we go.
Just sit back and relax. It's time for some announcements.
For old time's sake.
Yeah. That's one of my favorites, though. Let's see here. Well, let's start off by thanking our donors who are the latest. Well, I actually have the list this week because I was thinking ahead.
Yay.
Let's see here. We've got Chris McCalla. We've got David Smith, the incredibly gorgeous Martha Kahn, Garrick Young, Susan Lee, Larissa Gallagher. Larissa is actually donating to the show. Trev Jones, Michael Hacker, Eric Aragoni, Patty Gibbons, Don Griffith, and Eric Aragoni.
Man.
So,
you know what? Eric's a smart man. For what he donates every week, he has his name announced in public week after week.
Eric Aragoni.
After week.
Yes. Also, with clickers, by the way, and we still have, there's a few left. I got to mail out about 12 or 13 of them tomorrow for all you people that have been waiting patiently for them. They're $5 a piece. They have this amazing logo on it. And is that like in focus there? See that?
Back a little bit more.
Close enough.
There you go.
But they're great for, queuing slides or queuing, making editing marks while you're reading instead of, hitting the M key.
So cheesy, but so effective.
Because you can use different
works.
codes with it. It's like 1 click, 2 clicks is the end of the slide, 3 clicks is okay, third take, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
$5, your official EWABS clicker.
And that logo will not always. We are working on a new logo, so that is limited edition.
That these will be collector's items,
That's
just
right.
like your things that you were talking about before. But you can get those right below. If you look down from where you're looking at the player right now,
right.
It's down there. You can buy a clicker from right there.
Well, I want to congratulate Rebecca Davis.
Rebecca Davis, one of my
fan
favorite
of
people.
our. We're a big fan of hers for sure. She has been working it out here in Los Angeles for a while as a voice actor, but she's been using the Don LaFontaine voiceover lab here and taking good advantage of it. And we decided to give out a yearly annual award called the Don LaFontaine Spirit Award. And we gave the first one to Rebecca. And it was not like a big voting process. We just talked amongst ourselves. We talked to the lab administrators. We wanted to know who was using it the best to the most effect and who was getting, the most return for their time. And there was Rebecca. So we gave her an award. And not only that, did she get a nice plaque and everything, but she got a Source Connect Pro license from Rebecca Wilson at Source Elements. Not just any license. She got Don LaFontaine's license.
Ooh.
So Rebecca was just sitting there one day going through the 2,000 plus names that they have in their database, and she sees Don, and she says, "I didn't even know that he had a license." And I said, not only did he have it, he used it. He did spots from like a castle in Scotland. He was doing like Ratatouille and the Simpsons movie. I remember that distinctly, And so anyway, it's got some cool mojo attached to it that it used to be Don. So anyway, she won that award. Very cool. It was a lot of fun. I posted a video up on my Google Plus and Twitter and Facebook and everything. If you guys haven't seen it, go check it out. She's a great person. Huge energy. Really nice.
Mazel tov to her. What a great gal she is.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see what else. EWABS Essentials.
They're happening.
They're on there. We have our own EWABS Essentials channel, which is short little blurbs from our guests and some of the stuff that we've done. Go over to YouTube and you can...
I think it's still the same channel, but there's a playlist.
There's a playlist of EWABS
if you go to our usual
there.
channel and you'll see the playlist on there.
It is there. Let's see. Future shows.
EWABS show, by the way.
/EWABS show.
So are we on the air next week or not, Dan?
I guess we can do a hangout, but we want to do a hangout with Zoom because we can get a lot more people in on these.
Yeah, we're using Zoom tonight, and as all the experience we've had with Google Hangouts, it just has not been the most smooth process, and it has a limit to we can have 25 people. So let's see how many people we can handle with Zoom next week.
Right.
So How should we get people to join in?
Well, they could email us.
All right.
And say they want to be part of the fan hangout next week. You can ask us any questions. We can have a discussion. We can do just about anything because I may only be here for part of it because I'll be driving back from Massachusetts.
Yeah, Dan might be running late, so I'm just gonna kick off the hangout. I'll send the invite to everybody that emails us up until that night.
And just click on the link, and it'll get you into the Zoom chat.
Yeah, we'll have some fun, and it'll be
different.
Broadcast on Ustream and everything else like normal.
Right.
It should be fun. It's been a long time since we've had a fan hangout, so I'm looking forward to catching up with everybody.
That's true. Considering how many shows we've done, I think it's time to get the fans involved.
Yeah,
once again.
Summertime. Let's take it easy and have fun.
Yeah, I mean, now we still have to decide. Yeah, now we have to have an EWABS business meeting. Are we going to do it like every other week, or are we going to take 1 week off each month?
I'm thinking probably 1 week off each month. We got so much going on, so many guests in the tiller, and so much happening. I don't want to miss 2 shows a week. That would be too hard for me, I think.
We don't want them we want them in the till, not the tiller. The tiller will grind them up and put them back into the compost.
In the till.
We don't want that. Anyway, but so we've got a lot of great guests. I know Dave Courvoisier is going to be joining us in a couple of weeks because he's got a book coming out. We won't talk about that.
Don't tell me about it.
I know. Let's see. And we'd like to thank our sponsors, of course, the one and only Harlan Hogan Voiceover Extra, and, of course, your employers. Put your hand underneath the Edge thing.
In case you didn't notice this gigantic, monstrous banner. Edge Studio. If you're looking for, in furthering your career, getting more coaching and maybe advanced coaching in a specific niche or niche, or whatever, if you're doing production or you want to get on the roster and have them start hiring you, contact them over there. Send an email to production@edgestudio.com if you're interested in being on the roster, and tell them that George Whittam sent you.
That's right.
Maybe you'll get on the roster.
Again, yes. For the invite, you go to ewabshop@gmail.com.
Right.
There it is.
EWAB Shop.
EWAB Shop with one S.
With an E after the E. After an A after the E. Close enough, Dan.
What?
EWABS Shop.
I hit the A. Freaking
Apple keyboards, man. I'm telling you. 15-year-old Microsoft, baby. Look at this nasty keyboard. It's perfect.
Ooh, that is nasty.
I have another one coming, actually, from eBay. It'll be here soon. Right. Same exact one, 15 years old.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for us this week. Of course, we'd like to thank Kathy Curridin and Anthony Gettig for, of course, monitoring the chat room in inimitable style tonight.
That's right.
Getting all those questions in there. Jack DeGalia and Mike McKean also.
Tim McKean, yeah.
Tim McKean for doing the EWABS Essentials.
Mm-hmm.
And Lee Pinney for some production assistance, and everybody else. You guys for watching the show. And, of course, more than anybody else, our wonderful wives who put up with this each and every week. So thank you to Amy and to Marcy. Well, that's going to do it for us tonight.
Sorry, I forgot to shave everybody.
You got to shave today. Hey, I shaved. I did the mustache up. No,
I was going to shave before the show.
That didn't happen.
I had to rebuild the Wirecast. Long story, but anyway.
Okay. Yes. And happy Canada Day to all our Canadian friends there. Again,
take off, eh?
You take off. All right.
Sorry,
anyway.
That will never die.
Never.
There needs to be a new movie to replace that movie, so we no longer have to quote that movie anymore.
Yeah, really. Anyway, I'm Dan Leonard in the East.
I'm George Whittam in the West.
And together we are East-West Audio Body Shop. Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Next.